Hello, it's been longer than I'd like to be because I had a lot of college work to do, but for now I am back. Once I have no assignments left, I'm probably going to try and establish some kind of schedule for uploading things because I want to try get into the practice of doing it regularly. Also, you may notice I'm trying to up the production value a little bit, so this video is a little bit of a science experiment involving tiramisu, which I will explain momentarily. When it comes to tiramisu, there seems to be a lot of debate on whether or not you should use store-bought ladyfingers or homemade ones. A lot of people say the store-bought ones are better because they're hard and crispy and you want to keep some of that texture when you soak them. I can't really vouch for how these are in tiramisu, but as a standalone biscuit, they're absolutely horrifying. It's like airy cardboard. And a lot of people say the homemade ones are better because they're homemade. Homemade things usually are just better. But also they're softer, so people say that they go mushy if you use them the way you do the other ones. I have no idea what I think because I haven't really made that many tiramisu, so today I'm going to make tiramisu using both and see how it goes for science. For the ladyfingers, first separate 3 eggs. You'll be using both the whites and the yolks. In the bowl of a stand mixer, put your egg whites, half the sugar, and a teaspoon of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Beat them together on high until they become voluminous and white and glossy, and they hold stiff peaks. In a separate bowl, combine the egg yolks, the rest of the sugar, the zest of a lemon, a teaspoon of lemon juice, a teaspoon of vanilla, and a pinch of salt. Beat them on high until they turn thick and pale. They should sort of ribbon down when you lift them. Now add the flour and the cornstarch and gently fold them in to combine. Then add the meringue about a half at a time and fold it in too, until you end up with a batter that looks something like this. Put it into a piping bag with a large round tip, and then it's time to pipe your ladyfingers. Mine were not perfect shapes by any means, but it doesn't really matter that much. They don't rise a lot when you bake them, so make them about the width that you want the finished fingers to be. Once they're all piped, dust the ladyfingers with a layer of icing sugar. Let them sit for 5 minutes and then dust them with a second layer before you put them in the oven for about 15 minutes until they're lightly golden. Let them cool down completely before you finally peel them from the pan. Homemade ones are done, so I'm going to do a taste comparison. Obviously my ones are wider, that's just because of how I pipe them. It's not as hard either, it feels spongy and soft because obviously it's like a sponge cake. And in terms of weight, it actually feels lighter than this one. First, I'm going to taste ye old store-bought ladyfinger.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Homemade version. They're basically 2 completely different things. The outside shell of this one is kind of a little crispy, still very light. The inside is very soft and pillowy and light. Whether or not that's a good sign for tiramisu, we'll find out, but just as a thing to eat by itself, it's good. With homemade ladyfingers, a lot of people seem to recommend leaving them out for a while to kind of stale up and get harder, which I don't know how much of a point there is in doing that because they're not going to get that hard. They'll get a bit staler, yeah, but nothing like the store-bought ladyfingers. So I don't know if there's any point. I feel like maybe you're wasting your time, but I did it anyway. I left them out overnight, so. For the tiramisu, first and foremost, you're going to need to make some coffee in advance. The ladyfingers will be getting soaked in this later, and it needs to be room temperature. Ideally, you should use something strong, preferably espresso. I just used the best that I had on hand, or at least what seemed like the best. Separate 4 more eggs and beat the whites until they form stiff peaks. Combine the yolks with the caster sugar and beat them until they're thick and pale, like what you did earlier for the ladyfingers. Beat in the mascarpone cheese about 1/4 at a time until completely smooth. Make sure not to over whip it because it can split kind of like over whipped cream does, which makes sense because mascarpone is basically just thickened cream. Next, fold in the beaten egg whites. I started folding them with a spatula and then I continued using a balloon whisk. This is a good way to be gentle and keep the lightness but still break it up efficiently because of how many prongs there are. Keep on folding until everything is smoothly combined. And then it's assembly time. I combined some of the coffee with a generous glug of Kahlua to soak the ladyfingers with. There are a lot of different things that people tend to soak ladyfingers with for tiramisu. I went with coffee and Kahlua. A lot of, I think, more authentic recipes would use amaretto or Marsala or some kind of rum. I use Kahlua because I like it, so It's really down to preference. I used empty Ferrero Rocher boxes to assemble my two experiments because they fit the ladyfingers almost perfectly. I began by smearing some of the mascarpone cream on the bottom to hold the ladyfingers in place. Next, I very quickly and briefly dipped the disgusting store-bought ladyfingers into the coffee mixture and laid them into the container. These were topped with more of the cream and then dusted with a layer of cocoa powder. After that, more soaked ladyfingers and then the top layer of the cream. I repeated this layering process with the homemade ladyfingers in the second container. Also, I made an extra half batch of the mascarpone cream to make a larger tiramisu in this cool glass bowl that I found. And then leave them into the fridge to set. Tiramisu needs at least 6 hours to set, but you should give it more if you can, because the longer you let it set, the better it's going to be, because the flavors are going to come together. So I let mine sit in the fridge overnight. Which brings us to the cocktail portion of the video, because there is one. Hello, welcome to Cocktail Hour with Paul. Today I'm going to make a White Russian, which is a cocktail made famous by a movie about bowling that I haven't seen. The first step is a shot of vodka. I don't have any actual bartending equipment, so I'm using this thing. I know that one shot is 60 milliliters, which is about what that is. Into a glass of ice. Shot of Kahlua. Into your glass as well. And then for the magical part, you add cream. Take a minute to just appreciate how pretty it is as you kind of stir it and as it just kind of comes together. It's so swirly and nice. There's a lovely gradient. And you just stir it together and that's basically it. Cheers. This video was about tiramisu, wasn't it? Okay, yeah, back on topic. For the final step, I made whipped cream to top the tiramisu with. I assume you know how to do that. I piped it on with a large round tip in elegant lines, somehow ruining the first one before doing the rest just fine. Dust the top with a generous layer of cocoa powder and they're finally complete. Hey, that's crooked. Thank you. Okay. Oops. Oh well. Here are our two contenders. This is the store-bought ladyfingers. This is the homemade ones. So I'm gonna try the store-bought first. They pretty much completely melt in your mouth, which is good, but it's not like they're mushy. They're still kind of like a very light sponge. Store-bought ladyfingers, I'm very sorry I was mean to you. You are okay. For tiramisu, on your own you are still repulsive. Before I eat the entire thing, I should try the other one too. I piped the top of this one better. I don't know if you can see from there. It doesn't really add up. I thought the complaint with the homemade ones was that they go mushy, but this one is arguably mushier than the homemade ones were, which... okay. Even then, the difference is marginal though. Like, if you handed me both of these, and I tried them both, and you didn't tell me which one was which, I probably wouldn't be able to tell. I guess the ones I made are bigger than those, so that could be part of why they're a little bit firmer, I would say. All in all, they're basically indistinguishable from each other, so there's really no need to go through the effort of making your own ladyfingers for tiramisu. Making your own ladyfingers to eat? Yes, because they're vastly superior to the store-bought ones. They're a completely different thing, basically, in that regard. But for tiramisu, same difference. Just buy them. And here's the big boy as well. It's pretty deep. There's actually 3 layers of ladyfingers in this one because that's how deep the dish is. But you can see the layers through the glass as well, which I enjoy. Anyway, tiramisu, done. I need to finish now because my family wants to eat this, so... And with that, we have our winner. The store-bought ones are the better choice, in my opinion. Anyway, that's it. I don't have anything else to add now. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching my other ones too. If you haven't seen them somehow, go give them a look. They're good, I guess. Anyway, I really need to get back to my college work now, so I'm gonna go and do that. Thank you for watching. Bye.